Hi there. Welcome to our session. We're so happy to see all of you today. We are the Condors from MacDonald High School, and we're going to share, we're going to share with you our experience over the last year and a bit since we opened. It's coming. We'll do it next.
All right. So as my friend Margit here said, we are from Kathleen MacDonald High School. Come fly with the Condors. We are a brand new comprehensive high school in the Santa Clara Unified School District. We just opened last year, so we're in the fall of our second year. At this point, we have freshmen and sophomores, and we opened with just freshmen last year. But we have opened our school with the vision to provide an inclusive and equitable education to all students. To that end, all of our core classes have co-taught sections to support students with identified needs.
So we're going to introduce ourselves. I guess I'll start. My name is Margit Henry. I am a co-teacher. I'm a special ed teacher, and I co-teach English 9 and 10. Last year, I co-taught biology with Anna Lucas, and this year I'm working with Janna.
Hi, I'm Janna. I teach English and co-teach with Margit.
And I'm Anna Lucas, and I teach biology and chemistry, co-taught for chemistry this year, actually a push-in for chemistry this year. And last year I co-taught with Margit right here for biology.
Hi, I'm Vivian Rhone-Lay. I am the founding principal of Kathleen MacDonald High School, and so happy to be here with my amazing founding team.
Yeah, echo that about our team. I'm Rick Hayashi, the vice principal at MacDonald High School.
All right, so our objectives for today are what is I can brainstorm and develop solutions to real life challenges. The why of what we're doing today is to broaden our understanding of effective practices in inclusion schools. And the essential question, hopefully the big takeaway that you guys have is what kinds of UDL-based practices best support inclusion in our schools?
So here's our flight plan today with the Condors. We already told you who we are. We're going to do a solution incubator together. We're going to give you some of the scenarios of the challenges that we met up with last year and continue to face. We're going to give you a chance to challenge solve those together, and then we'll share our experience with you. Our amazing admins are going to talk about our fierce protocols in the Condor way and how we've been using MTSS throughout our school, and then what our next steps are.
All right, so our context at our school, we were inaugurated last year with just a 9th grade class. And like I said a minute ago, we have 9th and 10th graders this year. We have heterogeneous class groupings. So students with honors and SPED identities and labels are grouped together in the same classes. We also have our multilingual learners, and our emergent multilinguals are grouped together in those same classes. We have new co-teaching pairs. We started the school last year with an entirely new staff, all coming from different schools, some within the district and some from outside. And we've come in with various areas of expertise. So that's kind of our context and how we started last year.
So today, the work that we're going to be doing is going to really be surrounding these questions that we have up here. So we're going to have you guys get into groups of 3 or more. So if you're currently sitting at a table where there's not at least 3 people, we'd like you to move so that you could be in a table with at least 3 people.
We're going to also pass out papers for you to do the solution incubator with us. So if you could be as close to the front as possible and join groups so that at each table we have at least 3 people, 4 is great.
There it goes. All right, so if I can have your attention, we'll continue. We're just having a little technical problem up there, but we're going to move forward now. We've got another computer connected. So your task right now is that you are going to choose an action and expression mode that you're going to be using. And I'll show you in a minute your choices for that. You're going to read the situation that your group has been given. So you have either a green, blue, yellow, or pale pink paper that has a situation that is a real life situation that came up last year at MacDonald High School. You're going to identify the challenge in that situation in terms of co-teaching and how that could be a challenge for inclusion and for moving forward and supporting all students. You're going to then brainstorm solutions and opportunities, and you're going to have an opportunity to share your ideas with some of the other groups that are here in the room. Okay, so that's going to be your task around the scenario that you've been given. And so your choices of action and movement. So you, for sharing with the other group, we're giving 4 choices of how your group of 3 or 4 would like to share to another group. You can have the power of the pen, which means you're going to create a collaborative poster of some kind to share. And you can just do that on the back of the handouts that you've been given. Like, you know, just flip over the pink or green page that you have and just draw something, because it's a small group presentation, doesn't have to be a large poster. You can do an action, which means that you're going to act it out in a skit for those of you who like that kind of stuff. That sounds like fun. Or you could talk it out. You could share some kind of an interview or a speech to share with another group what you've come up with. Or your final choice is create a flair, where you can create a poem, a song, or a dance to show what you've read about and what solutions you have to that situation. So before we let you guys get started, are there any clarifying questions? I think it's enough that there's a picture and emoji of me right here pretending like I actually know how to sing, because that's not a thing. You do not want me to give an example. I'm just telling you, I'll save you from it. Any questions? All right, can we have the next slide? Go ahead and click anything on mine. There we go. All right. So here are just our directions, just so you know. Each group needs to be, this is for our in-person people, each group needs to be able to illustrate your situation, identify the challenge, and propose a solution or opportunities around that. For our online participants, I know that they're listening and seeing this. You're going to pick up the linked document. You're going to open that they are now putting in the chat bar for you. Then after you do that, you'll be going to a breakout room where you will be discussing all of the scenarios and returning with your solutions as well. Okay, so we have directions for our online people and our people who are here in person with us. Can I have the next slide, I think? Oh, actually, no, I don't want the next slide. Stay there. So what we're going to do is we're going to give you 10 minutes right now to prepare and to kind of read your scenarios, discuss your scenarios, prepare with however you're going to present it. At the end of this 10-minute timer, we will give time and we'll organize you guys in a way that you can share with each other. So I'm turning off my mic now, and here comes your 10 minutes.
Okay, wonderful people. That's our time. We hope you had great conversations with each other. Give yourselves a round of applause for your multiple modes. We saw some very uncanny acting that seemed a lot like the students we had in mind. So thank you. And we heard a lot of great ideas that we ourselves are going to take with us. What we're going to do now is debrief the scenarios and share with you what we are working on with these particular challenges that are ongoing for us. And you can think about what you saw as presentations from other groups today and what your own groups came up with. So here's our scenario. An honor student refuses to work with a student with identifiable needs. Whenever she's asked to work with the student, she rolls her eyes, turns the other way, and grumbles, "Why am I being forced to work with the stupid students?" And this came up more than once at our school and was pretty shocking to us. We realized that we were so ready for inclusion, but our previously segregated students were not yet ready. So we're going to show you on the next slide how we address this issue. So we used our UDL guidelines. We have a chart that we've designed to be student facing as well. And the first thing we dealt with is to conference with the student who made the comment, to find out what her needs were in that situation, because the comments came from her herself feeling threats. So she didn't feel safe in that environment. We also made sure that the person who was partnering with the student with identifiable needs also had scaffolds to be able to work with that student, and that the student themselves had appropriate scaffolds so they could participate. Something else that we've taken on last year and this year is we use our student-facing UDL tool to share with students what universal design is, and we have them practice identifying their own needs and being aware that we're trying to design everything universally, and that's part of our inclusion. So we're trying to teach about our culture of inclusion as well. So that's how we're working on that particular scenario. And I think this year it seems better than last year. Students seem more comfortable than they were in the previous year. So that's our first one. Oh, this is all. Yeah, of course. Yes. We are, yeah, so I'll repeat the question. And the question is, are we teaching students about UDL or are we teaching the staff about UDL? So the project we took on last year is we taught students about UDL. We made a student-facing UDL guideline, and we had students, the way that we taught it, we had students write about a worst and a best learning experience, and then use the chart to identify what need was met or unmet. We wanted to give students a vocabulary for them to be able to talk about their own learning needs. So I know that UDL is often used as a teacher-facing tool, but we feel it has value for students to be able to articulate what their needs are and also to empathize with other people's needs. So that's part of our English class every year. We have them do the writing session and then to identify their needs. And then we conference with them. We know what their needs are, and it's often very surprising to us, students with and without identified needs, for them to tell us. We go, oh yeah, that is what you need, and they knew it. So that's part of what we do to help all of our students understand about inclusion. So our staff has different levels of experience with UDL, but we know that all of our students have had experience with UDL.
Yeah, in our English courses, we do a lot of reflective writing, and a component of that, especially at the beginning of the year, is for them to reflect on their learning experiences. And so it's kind of built into the curriculum and added to the standards that we're doing is what, you want to reflect on, how you learn best as a learner and what your needs as a learner are.
Okay. Does that answer your question? Okay. Oh, yeah, we can speak to that. Yep.
Yeah. So when we started out the year, again, brand new school, we were like, okay, everything's going to be heterogeneous. And we did heterogeneous groupings. But gradually throughout the year, we realized that there were times that we did need to do more homogeneous groupings to meet the needs of the honor students as well as students who needed extra supports and scaffolds. So our classes currently are pretty flexibly grouped. We have certain things that we do in homogeneous groups and certain things that we do in heterogeneous groups. And we're constantly flexing that around or, moving that around so that all students are able to kind of get their own needs met. Does that answer the question?
Yeah. And just to add from a school-wide perspective, in terms of our master schedule, just one comment. We really believe that as part of the inclusive model, we wanted all types of students to be part of every single class experience. And so in any given section, you could have a student that was considered a regular student. You could have students with IEPs. We have students with 504s, English language learners, as well as our honor students. So they're all in the same sections across the content areas.
Okay, this is our distressed student, and we spoke a little bit before. I'll read the scenario because some of you have not seen it. A student previously in segregated classes shows signs of distress as he adjusts to general education classes. He often refuses to work, shouting, "I'm not going to do that," when asked to do something new or challenging, and refuses to collaborate with his table mates on group tasks. This is when it became really obvious to us at the beginning of last year. Like I said before, we were so ready for inclusion and our students were not there yet. And many students that came to us had never been, had spent time in core classes that were gen ed classes before. So it was quite a shock for them. So this is how we addressed it from a UDL perspective. So the first one about the why of learning, we really needed to build rapport and trust, of course, with the students who were feeling so particularly challenged. We, of course, needed to build achievable goals for that student and others. He was not the only student in that situation. And we heard this at tables with such a great conversation. The one that was acting out our scenario was very real for us, to build scaffolds and build on that, on those students' strengths and build on those. And then we also put motivators in place. So there were we identified the top 3 behaviors that we needed to work on with that student. He was highly motivated by that. With Rick Hayashi's help, we opened up the Condor Corner store. Students earned points and could go visit the store. So we could work on things like, I will talk to my group today, or I will take these notes. So that worked pretty well. Okay, so that's that one.
Your 5th period class contains quite a diverse group of learners. There are 8 self-identified honor students, 2 of whom previously attended exclusive private schools, and 12 students with IEPs, 5 of whom were in segregated classes while attending middle school. There are also 3 multilingual learners who are relatively new to the United States. One of the 3 multilingual learners says she has never before attended public school or school in general. So some of the solutions, we really needed to kind of make sure that our honor students felt represented fully in our classes and that they understood that this was also beneficial to them. So we did do some activities around, the benefit of inclusion in general in society, and also inclusive education, so that all students could be on board. At the same time, students with IEPs needed to feel safe. So we were doing, like I said, we started doing really flexible groupings, right? And also scaffolding things in different ways for the diverse learners that we had in our class, including for students that are, new to speaking English, like coming up with scaffolds that they can use to access the curriculum. And leaning also on some tech support for that.
So our final challenge was you, a seasoned biology teacher, which by the way is me, with 15 plus years of pedagogical experience, are asked to co-teach with a SPED teacher whose degree and 15 plus years of experience are all in English, which by the way is Margit.
That was me.
Right there. This is a real scenario. Your co-teacher is open to learning new things and willing to embrace your teaching style, but it's clear she needs time to learn and master the content. So go ahead.
Okay.
So
yeah, go for it.
What we did is we took a lot of time together. We realized that there was going to be a learning curve between us, and it started really slow. I feel like it ramped up kind of slowly, right? Yeah. Margit obviously needed time to learn the content. We found through time that Margit actually became a very good first time run through the content for me and my other teacher that I work with for planning. It was great to give things to Margit and say, try it out. Let's see how it works. Because she didn't have the background. It actually ended up being a bonus for us to have a co-teacher who didn't have the background and could run through it and find the places where she got stuck. Also with her English stuff, she was a great proofreader. But I think that was actually super valuable. And at the same time, Margit then was learning the content and was ready to take on the challenge. We lesson planned together. We supported each other. We worked as a team. We found ways during class, because it was important to us that the kids felt like that we were both teachers, that it wasn't just like, well, I was the biology teacher and this was the other teacher. We wanted to both be teachers. So we always found ways in class where she could present and do the things with the students that she was comfortable with, which was usually the non-content. Like if it was giving directions for an activity we were going to do, Margit was all over it. If it was reading aloud to the class, Margit was all over it. Just things that any teacher could do, Margit was all over it. And then when it came to the content part, I would jump in. So I think
the writing
it worked
piece.
well. Yeah.
There's a lot of writing assignments actually in bio, and it was super handy to have an English person in a bio room to talk about like, oh, how would we teach this as a writing activity? And then also what we kind of found like each other's strengths. I, as a SPED teacher, really appreciate a one-on-one check-in. So I became the homework checker, and I'm the person who's like, tell me how you're going to get that done and how can I support you to get that done? And that's really very much my role. The same with the proofreading. Like I'm looking at it as a non-biologist, but I'm also looking and thinking about students and go, who would get stuck, or this would be too busy for them. And I was all about like, let's put an arrow so it's really, really clear, right? So we bring our different lenses to the information. And then we got to sub together yesterday, and we were so happy to be back together because I feel like I learned so much from being in biology and just from teaching with another person. I pick up stuff that I would take over, work with my other teacher. I take stuff from this teacher and bring it over. So it was so fruitful.
Yeah, we might have jumped up and down like a bunch of giddy little
Might have
girls
jumped
when
up
she
and down
walked in my room
yesterday.
yesterday. The kids thought we were crazy.
Oh, yeah. The other thing we could talk about with that, what was really is a super important part of it was that you need to have a prep period together with your co-teacher. So last year, in the opening year, we all did things that we hadn't done before. So I taught English with Janna, and then I taught biology with Anna. I had my Anna and Janna combination. And we did arrange it so that I could get prep time with Anna, because it was quite hard for me to keep up with the content and with the sped role in the classroom and not have that prep time. So that was really valuable. So we wanted to mention that too. Okay.
Another thing that we just really want to speak to, we had, starting a new school is an amazing opportunity to sort of build things up foundationally. And so the teachers at our school really agreed to some school-wide agreements that really help to promote inclusion on our campus. We all agreed, for example, that we would engage in equitable standards-based grading systems, and we all agreed to sort of a common grading system across the school. We also all agreed that we would use Avid notebooks as tools for our students to sort of collect their learning and do their learning and to help keep them organized. We all agreed that we would focus on, a big key focus of our classes would be collaboration. At least every 15 or 20 minutes, students are asked to collaborate with each other. And especially with structured academic conversations where we give supports and sentence starters to support that. And then the hallway policy. Oh, we all had a common hallway policy as well to sort of keep, students, so that when they're going from class to class, they didn't have to guess, what are the policies of this class? What are the policies of that class? How am I going to be graded in this class versus that class? Which I think kind of helped, make kind of a more cohesive culture at our school and help students to feel more safe.
So to kind of transition a little bit, but to add to that, if you want to go back. So the first two, the grading system and the Avid notebooks, I have yet to be at a school, except for MacDonald, where the whole school is aligned with their grading system. And so it is a blessing to us, clear as kind for us with the students. And so when the students know exactly what the grading system is in Miss Lucas's class, and then we'll go to Miss Stone's class and Miss Lucani, everything is the same. And then we have IEP meetings and the Avid notebooks are out. The students know exactly where to turn to. Parents ask questions. It's a great referral process. So again, it's exceptional because kids could walk on campus knowing they'll go in any room and receive the same treatment and receive the same resources. So any administrators here? Okay, so we're going to transition a little bit to kind of discuss what administrators are doing, what we're doing to try to support the inclusive model and support the great work that our teachers are doing. So with all of this, when we first started 2 years ago, we were kind of wondering, like, we have a ton of things and initiatives. Where do we start? And so we kind of looked to the district, and the district had a graduate portrait. It essentially is competencies that they want to see when the students graduate from Santa Clara.
And if I could add to that, in looking at the graduate portrait, one thing that just really spoke to our hearts on staff was the competencies centered on inclusive empathizer and equity ambassador. And we knew that the driving force, the mission and vision of our school would be centered on those two competencies as they align with all of the other competencies.
So as we're aligning, it's the opening of a new school does have its benefits. So we started with about 15 teachers, and Vivian was very clear when teachers jumped on board that this is going to be a fully inclusive school. So when they signed up, when they started day one, this was the understanding. The second thing that has been a benefit is, I'm sure you've heard this at your other schools, is we've always done it this way, right? And well, we haven't done it this way because we're brand new. So we didn't run into those obstacles. And the last thing is, we kind of had a blank slate. We had a lot of things to work with, but it was basically us building from the ground up. It did lead to a couple, bless you, it did lead to a couple challenges. One was staff coming from different schools, and they would bring their experience. Well, at my school, we did it this way. So we had to parse through all of those things and listen to the teachers and come up with best practices throughout all the schools that we worked with. The second is, with the blank slate, it's great, but a new school, I think a lot of people had some input or wanted input. So we had teachers, parents, kids, the district, we had other outside stakeholders. So we all couldn't do this all at once and figure out, okay, we needed to, again, parse down what is best practice and what can be manageable. So this is using the graduate portrait, kind of started with our base.
So at MacDonald High School, we really believe that building an inclusive school means that we all believe in taking a whole child approach, even at the high school level. And we believe that taking a whole child approach means that we're taking an MTSS approach, a multi-tiered system of support approach, and that we're really figuring out what the specific needs are for each student interpersonally and educationally in terms of their social emotional growth, in order to support positive behavior, as well as to support their academic development. So we actually created FIERCE as part of a PBIS/MTSS model. And part of having an inclusive school is ensuring that there's a positive and healthy school culture and climate. So as you can see, the elements of FIERCE align with our graduate portrait. And again, I mentioned earlier that we're all very committed to focusing on the competencies that include inclusive empathizers as well as equity ambassadors, because we believe that is the foundation for the school.
And I just to echo what Vivian said, as an example, inclusive empathizers, some of these scenarios that were very real to us, inclusion sounds great, but then when you actually apply it, these bumps come up in the road. And so we really realized that to empathize, to have that skill for students to see someone else's experience and be able to work with all students and all teachers, it is something that is kind of a work in progress, but we do use these to drive a successful inclusive school.
And to drive that success, we have a set of rubrics that support each competency to support students both from a social emotional perspective as well as in the classroom. And so each of these competencies have a rubric that teachers are then able to use as they plan their units, their lessons, their projects, and their assessments. This way, as they are ensuring that they address the content area standards and content area frameworks, that they're also able to hone in on specific competencies. So for instance, last year we were hyper-focused on effective communicators, and we're always pinpointing inclusive empathizers and equity ambassadors. So behind each of these different bulleted items, we have rubrics that speak to even more refined standards and what that looks like and sounds like inside of the classroom, as well as in an outside of the classroom setting.
I just want to give an example of how we included this in the classroom. So for this year, for our 9s, we treated this as a text document in English class, and we taught them how to annotate infographics and had them use English skills to take this apart and then define for themselves what that meant. So we try to embed it into the curriculum. And then we also had the celebration of learning at the end of the year.
Yeah, so this truly is our North Star. So this is where everything, the decisions, where it's driven. So if you go to so what did we do next? We flooded, we branded and flooded the school with the acronym FIERCE. So it's like what Janna was saying, it's embedded in their curriculum, it's embedded in their lesson plans. It's on our shirts. So we have it in the hallways. We actually send letters home to parents, postcards, identifying the students and recognizing their good work, all related to the FIERCE competencies. So again, this message is very clear. We just had our WASC visit, and again, that is our driving force, and it helps whenever we have difficult conversations, because we do have difficult conversations. We always point to how does it work with our FIERCE competencies.
So we had the beauty of being able to hire a founding team and spend the summer before we opened our doors in circle, talking about the different tier 1 strategies that we wanted to ensure we had in all classes. And specifically, we wanted to identify tier 1 strategies that were near and dear to our heart that we could all commit to, and that would, again, support some social emotional development, would support all students being able to access the curriculum, as well as to, of course, support positive behavior. We all agreed to have what we call personalized competency-based learning, which is essentially a twice weekly flex time. And on Mondays, those days are primarily dedicated to tutorial support. So all of our students essentially go to a homeroom landing pad, and then they're able to decide to go see other teachers for extra support. Thursdays are mostly dedicated for opportunities for enrichment. This is when all of our ASB club meetings take place. This is when we have our school rallies and other enrichment opportunities. Like right now, we're working with Stanford to come in to provide support to students in our makerspace. We also all agreed to fully utilize UDL as part of our tier 1 commitments to our students. And as you can see, and Rick, please jump in, we all ascribe to the use of restorative practices, and specifically the restorative window. And our team likes to stay in the width space.
You know, just to add, I think empathy is, it's hard to do inclusion without empathy. And sometimes it's within the class, but sometimes it's with outside the class. And that's what we do to really support the teachers. When there is a situation where kids like, I'm not going to help this stupid kid, or things like that, sometimes it's a discussion outside the class about, do you know what the student is going through? Can you imagine? And then the back and forth. And we have those conferences, and I think they go back to the class with a little bit more respect, mutual respect for each other and their needs.
And of course, another tier 1 strategy that we all have committed to is our fierce competencies, and really pushing every student to be as fierce as they possibly can every day. We also all believe in a design thinking mindset, which means that we promote and encourage our students and our staff that it's okay to fail, to make mistakes, that these are all opportunities for learning. So we're constantly finding opportunities to name opportunities for learning. So this was mentioned earlier. We at MacDonald have a standards-based grading system across every single class. Every single staff member has agreed to this. We grade on a 4-point scale. And as a staff, we spend hours refining our conversion scale to letter grade. As mentioned before too, across the content areas, we've used Avid notebooks, and we have an amazing staff that each have experience in all these different aspects and provide teacher facilitated training throughout the summer, throughout the year. There's a lot of ongoing consultation throughout the year. We also take the approach of creating assessments that are likened to a driver's test rather than a permits test. We've all agreed that one of our areas of focus is to have high quality interactions. So every 10 to 15 minutes, we're looking for a transition and a highly engaging activity that is reciprocal, that is sustained, and leading to construction of new knowledge. And as part of our co-teaching strategy, we emphasize a use of a duet model. And in those sections that might be more of in-class support, that we're using more of a map and navigate model. But to the very extent possible, we're all striving to do a duet, which is more of a dance. Everything in those sections are 50%, 50%. So both teachers are doing all things together in terms of planning, teaching, assessing, and grading. So regarding the master schedule, one really important component that supports an inclusive school is ensuring that the master schedule is done right, and that the vision and the mission and the belief in having an inclusive school and having students heterogeneously grouped is supported by the bones of the school. The master schedule actually begins the September prior to the following school year. And so in order to set this model straight, there are a lot of moving pieces. So for instance, for next school year, we started this master scheduling process in September. So one of our 8 takeaways in order to make our school a success, the first one included collecting course request data. We went out and visited all of our 8th graders. We sat with 185 students and then another 30 or so students to find out what classes they wanted to take. We took a self-selection process, so we had to do away with some of the archaic processes related to applying for classes and having to apply to get in. So that was a groundbreaking practice for our team for sure. Another key takeaway was ensuring that we build a student request-driven master schedule and that we communicate that to all of our stakeholders. So empowering students to choose the classes they want to take, empowering case managers at our middle schools to really push and encourage students and parents to get excited about the full inclusion model, to get excited about being in a co-taught section. So there are a lot of conversations that happen with our larger community. Another big takeaway was building a mini master schedule. So when you build a massive master schedule, you have to basically figure out what to prioritize. And at MacDonald, we prioritize our students that have IEPs, we prioritize our multilingual learners. And so we want to make sure that they have access to all of their courses first. So we actually built out a mini master schedule to ensure that all those students' course requests, students who have IEPs or students who are multilingual learners, they're all going to be able to get into their classes. And then we build the master schedule around those needs because we really do believe that we focus first on the students that are furthest from opportunity. Also, we look for compatibility. In the hiring process, we needed to look for unicorns, and we have so many unicorns on our team. We're very fortunate, who hold multiple credentials, who are experienced in UDL, who believe in MTSS. And so we had to look for that compatibility piece. And we have the unique opportunity to be able to hire the next 2 cohorts of teachers. But this is really key. This makes or breaks the school, as you know, and we just have an amazing team. Another takeaway was aligning the technical build with the philosophical build. I previously came from a district, Eastside Union High School District, that used Infinite Campus, but at Santa Clara Unified, we use Aries. And so from a technical standpoint, as an administrator, I had to take my knowledge of course variants and those types of things and translate that to codes. And what kinds of placeholder codes can you use to be able to do the technical part of the build in the same way? What this all amounted to was just being flexible and in working with different stakeholder groups that may be speaking a different language in terms of the software, that we could just empower our team to figure out how to use the software to get it to do the things that we wanted it to be able to do for our teachers and for our students at the end of the day. And of course, number 6 is whenever you do a technical build, we have to make sure always that we are in 100% compliance with students' FAPE. And so all throughout the master schedule process, we as a team were committed to ensuring when we got new information about students on their FAPE page, the percentages that if the percentages needed to be changed, if we needed to hold amendment meetings, what needed to be communicated during all those transition meetings, that of course is number 1. Of course, we want to do what's right by students and simultaneously stay in 100% compliance, which is important as well. And so we constantly, as a team, revisit students' FAPE pages. We revisit the accommodations and in some cases modifications that are listed, but really true to our heart is LRE and making sure that our students are always in the appropriate settings with all the supports they need to thrive. Another takeaway is that, of course, with every school district, we have collective bargaining agreements, and we as an administrative team and as a larger team are committed to ensuring that we know those agreements and that we stick to them and that we have ongoing conversations to be able to make the great work possible. And our last takeaway with the master schedule build would be that data needs to constantly be collected about how effective the master schedule is from year to year so that we can improve and tweak along the way.
So I think a takeaway that maybe you could bring back to your school, I think the biggest exercise that we did that moved the needle and continues to move the needle is we call it kind of a review preview. So towards the end of the school year, around April or May, as you guys know, maybe in even December, you guys are thinking about programming for even the next year. But we really try to discuss maybe April or May what the successes were for the school year. And then as we do that, we build on what worked. And then we talk about the following year, what's going to happen, the preview, and what can we agree on. And we forget some understanding and alignment at that point. I know in August, I've done this for a while, and it seems like August, when the first day back, all of us get back to the campus, we don't want to sit for 2 hours and listen to me or listen to people talk. We want to be in our classes. We want to get ready. We want to get going in our classes. So by the time school starts in August, we have these things in place. We've discussed them. And then it's just kind of digesting it again and reviewing, so the teachers could go to their class and get going. But I think a key component is have these discussions about maybe we could do 2 or 3 things we could align and agree that we're all going to do this as a school and even have a theme around it in April or May. And then again, come August, you guys are up and running, and it's just a review for you guys as teachers.
So we have a couple minutes left, I think. And so what we're going to invite you now to do is at your tables, or if you're near people from your site, think about this question, and you can discuss for a moment which Tier 1 agreement or approach to support inclusion may work best for your site. And then if we have a little bit of time, if people have questions, we'll also be happy to speak with you. So we'll give a moment or two for you to chat. Okay. We hope very much that you have ideas to take away with you from our session today. Hearing all of you in your groups also let us know that we can take ideas from you. So if you'd like to connect with us, we would love that if you want to come up and chat with us. But we understand that we are at the end of time, and we all want to thank you so much for being here today. Thank you so much.